The Maid of the Olden Days. Now, as you shall perceive, all mine utter despair was turned in a moment into an huge gladness and a great hope, so that it did seem to me that I should be with my dear one in but a little while. Yet was this an over hope and expectation, and was not like to have a swift satisfying, for, truly, I was made aware of naught, save that I did perceive the shape of a great pyramid, going upward into the night. And I knew that the pyramid did surely stand upon an hill in the midst of that dark country, for only so might it show so great and high. And I set me to run swift downward into the land, so that I should make a strong going unto the pyramid. And I ran for a few little minutes, and lo! I fell headlong, and did truly feel as that I had brake my neck with the hardness and pain of my fall. And I had no power to go forward any more for a great while, but did just be there where I did fall, and very helpless and moaning a little, so that any creature had been able to slay me, if that it had come upon me in that time. Yet, presently, I was able to sit upon the earth, and did hold my neck with my hands, and afterward the pain went away, so that I gat once more to my feet. But now I went forward very wisely, and had, moreover, an anxiousness in my heart, for, indeed, how did it be that the pyramid was so utter dark, if that it did be the lesser refuge, in truth? And immediately there did rise in me a fear that it should be some house of evil in the dark of that land, or some wicked force working a pretense and a bewilderment upon my sight. Yet, truly, the thing was plain now against the far-off fires of the land, and I did have little thought but that it should be, in verity, the lesser refuge. Now in the first moment that I did perceive the dark pyramid, I had been without wit, save to run very quick and blind unto the place, for you to remember how long I had made so great a search. And afterward, I had been minded to call unto Nani with my brain elements, sending the master word, and my speech after to tell how that I was come unto her. But now I did heed to have caution, and to discover what this darkness should truly mean. And so did I go downward again into the night of that land, at the first with a carefulness, but presently with a fierce eagerness and expecting of the heart, the which had been dulled a little time with the horrid shaking and pain of my fall. Now I had climbed unto the upper plain of the great volcano in, maybe, 13 hours, but I went downward of that great hill in 10, and had made a greater speed, but that I was sore shaken and unsure, by reason of my fall. And in the end of the 10th hour, I perceived that I was come again to the great plain of the land, and I had no more any proper sight of the refuge, because that it was upward afar in the darkness of the night. Yet was I able now to see that there went a bulk between me and the far shinings, and did know that this great thing was surely the hill on which the pyramid did stand. And I went 4 hours across the land, and did pass in this place and that, fire holes that made a little red shining in the night, and because of the fires in those far parts and near, there was not an utter dark. And when I was gone 4 hours towards the pyramid, I could no more see the distant shinings, for the bulk of the hill bottom stood up between, and made all a blackness that way. And by this thing, I did guess that I was come nigh unto the hill, but yet was a great hour more before that I came to it. And in that 5 hours, since I was come down from the great volcano, there had passed me thrice and again, the sounds of things running in the night, and once there did be a sound as of a giant roaring afar, and a strange and horrid screaming. Now I began to go up the hill. And, at the first, an utter excitement took me in the heart, so that I could have shouted the name of the maid aloud in the night, with vain hopings that she should hear me and make an answer. But this state went from me very swift, as I did go upward, and there came a caution again about me, and a coldness of fear, as that my spirit did what of something that my heart did not perceive. And, presently, I was come upward almost to the top of the hill, the which took me nigh 3 hours. And surely, when I was come that I could see the grimness of the pyramid, going upward very desolate and silent into the night, lo! An utter shaking fear did take me, for the sweet cunning of my spirit did know that there abode no human in all that great and dark bulk, but that there did await me there, monstrous and horrid things that should bring destruction upon my soul. And I went downward of the hill, very quiet in the darkness, and so in the end, away from that place. And I was 4 great hours before that I was come clear away from the hill, and I did feel that there was not any safety for my spirit in all that land. And surely I went a little blindly, in the first, and did go with no heed unto my way. And presently, I was upon the shore of the olden sea, and had no knowing how that I was come there, for, surely, I did think it to be a great way off. But now I do think that the dry bed of the sea did curve around unto that place, or that there did be two, or more, olden seas in that country of night. Now, presently, I sat me down, very weak and bewildered, for it was as that my heart did lie dead within me. And, in verity, you shall perceive how this thing was, for I did know by the tellings of my spirit that there abode evil things in the dark pyramid upon the hill, and I doubted not but that destruction had come upon the peoples of the lesser pyramid, and that evil creatures and powers did now abide in that place. And if this thing did be truly so, I was come over late to the saving of the maid, and with this thought I was very glad that some evil thing should come that I should fight with it and die quickly, for there was not then in all the world to make me glad to have life. And so shall you know the utter desolation that was in my heart, and, truly, I can perceive both the wiseness and the unwisdom of my reasonings, for, indeed, I did have no sure knowing that the dark pyramid did be truly the lesser refuge. But yet, in verity, my spirit did know with a certain sureness, and there was no doubt concerning this thing, in all my being. And, after that I had sat there a while, I did mind me suddenly that I should send the master word through the night, for, indeed, how else might I ever know whether Nanny did yet live, though, in truth, I had little, save desperate hope in this matter, but yet did remember how that I had seemed odd times of my journey to hear the beat of the master word with my spirit, out of all the dark of the world. And, in verity, if Nanny answered not to the word, but there came instead an evil power to destroy me, I should but cease me of mine utter heartache. And I stood me upon my feet, and looked outward about me into the blackness of that land. And I sent the master word with my brain elements, and immediately I called Nanny, thrice, sending the call with my brain elements. And lo! In a moment, as it did seem, there broke around me out of all the mystery of night, low and solemn, the master word, beating in the night. And immediately there did sound within my brain a far, small voice, very lone and faint, as that it had come from the end of the world. And the voice was the voice of Nanny and the voice of Murdoch, and did call me by mine olden love name. Then, indeed, I did near to choke with the utter affright of joy that did take me in the heart, and also I was shaken with a mighty excitement, and my despair was gone, as that I had never known it. For, in verity, Nanny did live and did call unto me with her brain elements, and surely I had not heard the voice of mine own for an utter age of grim labor and dread. And the voice was, as I did say, as that it came from one that did be in a far place of the earth. And, in verity, whilst I stood dazed with a great joy that the maid did live, I knew within me, concerning the fear that she was utter far off, and what peril might come anigh to her, before that I should stand to her side, to do battle for her life and well-being and mine own joy. And lo! In the same moment, and before that I made further speech unto Nanny, I did what that someone did be a little way off from me, in the bushes, where a fire-hole did burn anigh to me, and it was as that my spirit knew this thing, and told of it unto my brain. And I made no answer unto the maid, across all the dark of the world, but went very swift into a great bush that was nigh to the fire-hole, upon this side. And I looked through, into the open space that did be about the fire-hole. And there was a little figure that did kneel, sobbing, upon the earth, beside the fire-hole, and truly it was a slim maid, and she did seem as that she harked very desperate, even whilst yet she did sob. And surely, mine own soul did know, all in one white moment of life. And she there, unknowing, and harking unto a cry of the spirit, that she did think to come through all the desolation of the night even from the mighty pyramid. For oft, as I did perceive, had she cried unto me in all that lonesome month, and known no answer, neither that I was making a desperate way unto her, for, indeed, her weakness was great, so that she had no power to throw the word strongly afar, neither to make plain her spiritual cryings through any mighty space of the ether. And lo! I drew in my breath, and set my teeth a moment, to steady my lips, and I said, Murdoch, out of the bush where I did be, and using natural human speech. And the maid ceased from her weeping, and looked this way and that, with an utter new fear, and with a frightened hope that did shine with her tears in the light from the fire-hole. And I divided the bush before me, and went through the bush, so that I came out before her, and did be there in my grey armour, and I did pause then, and was all adrift in myself, for my heart said that I should take this maid into mine arms again, for that I was come again to be with Murdith after an utter lost eternity. But yet was I all paused, for truly she was Nanny and she was Murdith, and she did be a stranger in mine eyes, and very dainty and pretty and shaken with woe and sore trouble and grief. And in that same moment of my coming unto her out of the bush, she screamed and fell back from me, and strove weakly to gain unto the hither bushes, for, truly, she knew not what was come upon her in that first little moment. And immediately she saw that it did be an human man, and no monster to slay her, and in that instant I said the master word unto her, aloud, that she should have knowledge of peace and help. And I told my name, and said I am that one. And she knew this thing, even as my lips made the sounds. And she cried out something in an utter broke voice, and ran unto me, and thrust her 2 small hands into my charge and keeping, and fell thence into a great sobbing and shaking, so that I was all in trouble to ease her, but did keep a silence and held fast her hands, for I had not on mine armoured gloves. And she leaned against me, very weak, and seeming wondrous like to a child. And lo! In a while she ceased to sob, and did but catch her breath this time and that, but said no word. And I bethought me that she did suffer of hunger, for I perceived that she had been long wandering and alone, and was come unto the end of hope, when that I did come. And the maid stood there yet silent, for she might not yet command her mouth to speak. And she trembled as she stood. And I opened my left hand, and looked at the hand within my palm, and surely it was utter thin and wasted. And I made no more pause, but lifted mine own and set her easy upon the earth, with an hump of smooth rock unto her back. And I stripped off my cloak very quick, and put it about her, for she was scarce covered with her clothes that had been all torn among the bushes, so that part she shook with an utter chill, and part because of weakness, for she was nigh to be starved unto her death, and destroyed with her grief and lonesomeness. And I took from my back the scrip and the pouch, and I gat a tablet from the scrip, and brake it into my cup, and with the water I made a little broth very swift upon an hot rock that was to the edge of the firehole. And I fed the broth unto the maid, for truly her hands did shake so that she had spilt it all, if that I had done otherwise. And she drank the broth, and was so weak that presently she did fall again to sobbing, yet very quiet, so that I strove not to be troubled in the heart, for, indeed, this thing was but reasonable, and not cause for me to have an anxiousness. But I put my hands under the cloak and took her hands into mine and held them strong and firm, and this did seem to bring something of peace and strength unto her, so that presently the trembling and the weeping went from her. And, indeed, the broth was surely helpful in this matter. And presently, I knew that her hands did stir a little within mine, and I loosed somewhat of my grip, and immediately, she grasped my hands with a weak and gentle grasp, but looked not yet at me, only did stay very quiet, as that she did gather her strength within her. And, indeed, I was content, save that an anxiousness of the heart did stir me this time and that, lest some monster should come upon us. And because of this trouble, I did hark about me, now and oft, and with a new and strange fearfulness of danger, because that now mine own was given unto my charge, and surely my heart would break, if that there came any hurt unto her. Now, of a sudden, the maid did make as that she would rise, and I loosed free from her, to give help. And she gat me by the hand, and slipped sudden to her knees, and did kiss my hand, and did begin again to weep. And surely I was so utter abashed that I stood very stupid and let her do this thing. But in a moment I drew free from her, for this thing might not be. And I gat me to my knee likewise before her, and took her hands, and kissed them once, newly humbled, as it were, and thus should she know all that was in my heart, and of mine understanding. And she did but sob the more, for she was so weak, and utter moved unto me, because that I had come to her through the night of the world. And this thing I knew, though no speech had yet passed between us. And I gave up her hands, lest she need them for her tears, but she left them to lie in my palms, as she did kneel there, and she bowed her head a little over her weeping, but did show that she was mine, in verity, unto the very essence of her dear spirit. And I took her into mine arms, very gently and without caress, but presently I stroked her hair, and called her Nanny and Murdith, and said many things unto her, that now I scarce do what of, but she did know them in the aftertime. And she was very quiet in mine arms, and seeming wondrous content, but yet did sob onward for a great time. And oft did I coax her and say vague things of comfort, as I have told. But truly she did ask no more comfort at that time than that she be sheltered where she did be. And truly she had been lonesome and in terror and in grief and dread, a great and horrid time. Now, presently, she was grown quiet, and I made to put her comfortable in the cloak against the rock, that I should have freedom to make her more of the broth. But yet she did nestle unto me, with a little sweet wistfulness, that made warm my heart in a most wondrous fashion, for surely she was mine own. And she to begin to say odd words to me. And so to have gentle obedience, and to rest quiet against the rock, the while that I did make the broth. Yet ever her gaze did follow me, as I knew, for I must look oft her way. And I took the broth to her, and she drank it, using her own 2 hands, and I sat by, and eat 3 of the tablets and drank some of the water, for truly it was a foolish great time since last I had eat. Now, in a while, the broth did make bright the eyes of the maid, and she did begin to talk, and at whiles had pauses, because that she lacked of strength, and there was more to be told than an human may have the heart strength and cunning to make plain. And twice she did come again to sobbing, for, truly, her father was dead and the peoples of the lesser redoubt all slain and dispersed through the night of that land. And I learned that an evil force had made action upon the peoples within the lesser redoubt, so that some, being utter weak by reason of the failing of the earth current, had opened the great door, and gone forth into the night. And immediately there had come into the lesser pyramid, great and horrid monsters, and had made a great and brutish chase, and had slain many, but some had escaped forth into the night. And with these had come Nani, after that her father, the master Monstruican, had been slain by a shaggy man, very brutal and monstrous. And there had been 3 maids with Nani, when that she made escape into the night, but there had come certain creatures upon them, as they did sleep among the bushes, and had stolen 2, and the other maid had run off, as did Nani, and they had neither met the other any more. And this dreadful happening unto the peoples of the lesser redoubt, had been a great while gone, as it to seem to her, but she had no means to tell me how long this time should be, for, in verity, how should she make account? Yet had it been a dread long while unto her, and I found presently that she had been lost through all that time that I did make my journey unto her, for, indeed, this thing I discovered by asking concerning my callings unto her. And she had heard none that did come to her, in any time since she had escaped out of the lost refuge into this dreadful land. Yet, in verity, oft had she callen unto me, until that her heart did grow sick with the desolation of her lonesomeness and her utter forsakeness. And her callings had told unto the evil things of the land that she did be in this part and that, for there had come things and beasts in search for her, but having the gift of the hearing, she had known of their approach, most whiles, and had come free from them, yet ofttimes with piteous and fearful runnings and hiding among the rocks and the bushes, so that she had grown afterward to make no calling unto me, save odd whiles, lest she bring the monsters upon her. And, indeed, as you do know, naught had come plain unto me, for she was so utter weak that she had no power of her brain elements to send the word afar or the tellings of her spirit. And because that she was so sorely chased, she had come nigh to be naked, even as I found her, for the bushes and the rocks had torn her garments from her, and she had not with which to make any proper mending of them. And for food she had eat the moss upon the rocks, and odd strange berries and growths, and had drunk of the waters of the hot springs, and oft had she been made utter sick, because of the sulphur, or somewhat, of the water and, maybe, the poison of odd plants. Yet, as I did think, it was like that the first did save her life from the second, but in this thing I do make only a guessing. And in all that dreadful time, since that she had come to be quite alone, she had heard a score drear things, for there had been once the slaying of a young maid nigh unto her, by some brute out in the darkness of the land, and thrice and more had she heard the feet of people running this way and that, and the tread of giants pursuing. And by this telling I did understand those things which mine ears had told to me as I did go across that land, and surely a new pity and sorrow and horror did come upward within me. And the maid told me how that she came once upon certain of the peoples of the lesser redoubt, as they did hide among the bushes, but they ran, with no heed to her callings, that she did be human, even as they, and by this is it plain the sore and dreadful panic that was upon the hearts of such. And the bitter chill of the land had made her to strive alway to be nigh unto the fireholes that were very plentiful, but even as this did be needful unto her, so was it a thing that drew the monstrous brutes of that land, even as I had found in the night land, and in the upward gorge. And because of this, she was oft made to stay afar off in the utter cold of the night. Yet, in truth, odd while she did be so desperate, that she would make the venture, and so mayhaps have a time of warmth, and because of this, she had been nigh slain in her sleep, twice and thrice. Moreover, there were snakes about the fires, though not over plentiful in all parts, and there did be spider crabs and monstrous scorpions. And, indeed, even as she had lain by the fire-hole, very weak and seeming near unto her death, even this time when my call had come unto her to stir her unto life and bitter knowledge of despair, even then was she all surrounded by creatures that were like to crabs, that did squat all about her, and did but wait for her to die, so that she had been feared to sleep, lest they destroy her in her slumber. And by this thing, she had known that her death was surely nigh, and lo! Out of all the night of the world had come the beat of the Master Word, strong and powerful, beating as a low and spiritual thunder out of all the dark of the night. Yet had she thought of me, only as speaking from the far-off mighty pyramid, so that the cry had brought not of hope unto her, but only a newer and more known despair. And, behold, in a little minute, there had come her name, spoken surely with the tongue, and a name that was different from the name that my spirit had said after the beat of the word. And immediately, I had come out of the bush, and she had fallen back in a sudden great fear that a monster was stolen upon her, and then did see a young man in grey armor, and did know in one instant that I was that olden one of her memory dreams, and the one that had spoken unto her in the spirit across half of the dead world, as it did seem. And now was I come through all that unknown desolation and affright, to succor her. And she was immediately safe, but yet all broken because of her weakness and her utter joy and her sweet honor for me. And this is the chief of that which she did tell unto me, and the way that she had seen and did regard the marvel of this our coming together. But, surely, no man was made ever to be worthy of the way that she did look upon me, or of the words that she did say unto me in her weakness and happiness. Now, with the maid having speech concerning the spider crabs, I looked presently well around, and surely, in a minute, I saw that they were not gone away, but did be a circle of silent and steadfast watching and impudence and horror all about us. And surely this thing put an anger and disgust upon me, so that I gat to my feet, and went unto the border of the light, and I spurned this little monster in that, and did truly kick maybe a dozen, before that they were content to be gone. And by this thing shall you know of their calm and foolish assurance, but yet were they seemingly without courage, for they made not to attack me. Yet a true crab of this day been wishful to pinch me, had I put my toe forth unto it. Now, I went back to the maid, and she did laugh with a little, weak gleefulness, so that I perceived that she was like to be a very joyous maiden, if but I did have her in health. And I made her another cup of the broth, and she drank it very easy. And afterward, I made a very stern and playful order that she must sleep, and, indeed, she to need it sore, for she was gone again from her excitement, and her weakness upon her, yet very happy and content and without fear. And I made a smooth place for her, and put the pouch and the scrip to be for a pillow, and I did lay her there very quiet and sweet in the cloak, and covered her feet, but, indeed, I saw first that they did be sore cut and without any gear to them, so that I perceived that mine own had worn out her footgear utter in her lonesome journeyings, and in running from brutes that did come to find her. And so I did know more in the heart, somewhat of the true dreadfulness and fear that had companioned mine own. And I was minded then that I would wash and bind up her feet, but yet was she so utter worn, that I did prefer that she sleep so soon as she might, and afterward, when she was come wakeful again, then should I take a proper heed of her feet. And truly, they were very small and shapely. And presently she slept, and, surely, I doubt whether she had slumbered so peaceful and proper for a great month, for she never to have known when any evil thing should come upon her in her sleep. And this to be a very dreadful feeling, as you do know well, for you do know how I had been in this same matter. Now, while Nani did sleep, I stripped off mine armor, and took off mine undersuit, which was named the armor suit, and a very warm and proper garment, and made thick that it should ease the chafe of the armor. And afterward, I put on the armor again, but the suit I folded, and laid beside the maid, for, truly, she was nigh unclothed, by reason of the bushes and the rocks, that had rent her garments all wise. And I stood watch for the maid, the while that she did slumber, and surely she went 10 long hours. And I walked upon this side of the firehole and now upon that, and did oft cease, that I might hearken both with mine ears and with my spirit, for, truly, I was all wakened to a new care and delight, and did have a fresh and doubled fear of any horrid creature or force of evil. And this shall be very plain to you. And in the end of 10 long hours, the maid wakened, and I ran to her all joyed that she was come again to knowledge and to be that I could talk with her. And she sat upward and looked at me, and there was new light and movement in her, so that I knew her strength was come back into her. And for a little minute, she said not unto me, the while that I did ask how she did be, and she looked at me very keen, so that I wondered some wise in a daze, what was in her mind. And she asked me, of a sudden, how long it did be since that I had slept. And having not thought to put away her asking, because that the question was over sudden, I said 84 hours, which should be 3 days and the half of a day of 4 hours and 20, and this thing I knew, because that I kept alway a very careful counting of the hours, lest that I get all adrift, and know not how long I was taken to come to this place and that. And, truly, even as I told this thing to the maid, I was grown very quaint in the head, for, indeed, I was gone a wondrous while without slumber, and had done much and bitter work in that time, and before then had been much lacking of rest, as you do know. And, sudden the maid cried out something, and tossed the cloak from her, and had me into her arms, and did heed not to have any foolish shame of her nakedness. And, in verity, I knew not how I was gone so strange, but do see now that I was nigh to swoon for lack of slumber and rest. And she kept me very steady for a little, and afterward helped me to be laid upon the ground, and she put the scrip and the pouch under my head, and so I did lie very calm and restful, and did be the more so, because that I was grown so tired in the heart, the which did make my head to be very hushed, as that all the world was grown very quiet in a moment. And the maid did mind then that she did lack to be properly covered, and she gat the cloak, and put it about her, and did afterward sit a little beside me, and did rub my hands. And presently, I was something more to myself, and she did grow more happy of her mind, and made to give me something for my stomach, for, indeed, I was grown those late hours to be foolish and to have no wiseness to proper eating. And she did lift my head, the while that she did take the scrip from under, and kept me very sweetly upon her knee, and so until she had gat free a pack of the tablets, and the flask and the cup, for I had put all matters back into the scrip before Nani had gone unto sleep, and because of this, I had not been able to eat or drink aught, save by wakening her, as you perceive, for, indeed I had put the scrip and the pouch under her head for a pillow, as I have told. And she would not bide that I should do aught, but only did ask concerning the making of the water, and was wondrous amazed to see how the powder did fizz up and become water, and indeed, she had too much into the cup, for, truly, it rose up and ran to the ground. And when she had done thus, and ceased to marvel, she put 3 of the tablets into the water, and made me a broth, even as I had made a broth for her, but, indeed, I was in no need, and had done very well to eat the tablets and drink the water. Yet, truly, I was not wishful to lack the love of her way, as you may think. Now while I did drink the broth, I did be very restful upon the earth, and mine head against mine own maid, and I did mind me now that I tell her concerning the armor suit that I did mean for her wear. Yet I said not that I had stripped it from me, for then she had been like to say nay, and to trouble that I was like to come to a chill, as is the way of a woman. But, indeed, I might so well have told her, for truly, she did know on the moment, and set to a little unto weeping, yet very gentle and sweet, and did kiss me as I lay there, and say such things as should make a young man the better to have heard, if but that his own dear love doth say the same. And she would nowise wear the garment, but yet in the end I prevailed by gentle reasonings, and because that I was her master, as I was born to be, and moreover, her own sweet sense did show that I spoke for wisdom, for how should she come through all the bitter way before, if that she had not a strong and close-made garment, and as you do mind, her coverings did be in outer rags, as I have told, yet very sweet and clean, as I had known, so that I ween she had stripped oft in the lonesome night. and washed her garments in this or that hot spring of the sulphur waters and other matters. And, in verity, always she was much given to washings, as I did soon perceive. Now, presently, I did be very well again, but with a sore slumber that did press upon my head. Yet, ere I should sleep, I did mean that I bathe her feet and bind them with ointment and with my pocket-cloth, and truly her feet were very small and pretty. And I sat me up, talking my head from Renée, and told her of mine intent. But, in verity, she did but throw her arms about my neck and give me one loving kiss, and laughed so hearty that I did think to do this thing when indeed she was the better able to mind it, and I the better suited to have me to my rest. And, surely, this was very true, and I made no ado, save to give her the ointment, but lay back, and did be quiet. Now I did be upon my right side, and she went to my back, and took the cloak from about her, and spread it upon me, and afterwards stooped over very dainty, and kissed me, and bade me to go very swift to my sleep, for that she did mean to make her toilet and to get into mine armor suit. And I made no foolishness in this matter, yet told her to ease the cloak a little about me, so that I should have room to take the discourse from my hip, and this thing I did, and took the discourse to my breast, as was my habit, and surely I saw that her eyes did look at me with a little shining, because that I had so strange and fierce a bedmate. And I made her to promise that she keep a very keen harking, the which was like that she should do, and to call me on the instant that she did perceive any unease in the night. And after that, I shut mine eyes, that I should not shame her, and put out mine arms, and kissed her once and turned from her unto my slumber, and she away to my back that she might be modest to her needs. And surely, I was asleep in but a little moment, and with a great love and delight in my heart and in all my being. And, truly, I waked not for 12 great hours. And when that time was gone, lo! I came awake, and surely the maid did sit beside me, so bonny, and so winsome and pretty that mine arms went unto her in a moment, and she into them, and gave me a loving and tender kiss, and afterward slipped away from me, very sensible and loving, and did stand up and turn about to be looked at. For she did wear the armor suit, and surely it was loose upon her, but yet very pleasing, being close-knit. And I to my seat, from lying, that I might see the maid the better. And, in verity, I must kiss her again, for she did be with her hair all about her, that she looked pretty unto me, and her little feet did be bare, and so that they made my heart new tender to look upon them, for truly she was utter lost of footgear. And I to my knee to her, and she, not to deny me, did come to be kissed again. Now when I found how great a time I had slept, I did scold mine own, but yet, as she did say, I must have long slumber if that I go so long wakeful, else should I lose my strength. And I asked how oft she had eat, and she told me but the once, and that 6 hours off. And on this I did scold again, but surely she put a very pretty finger sudden upon my lips, so that I might do naught but laugh, and kiss that same finger. And, after that, we did eat and drink, and made plans. And once I did comfort the maid, for, indeed, her sorrow did rise in her, because that her father was come unto his death, and the peoples of the lesser redoubt all destroyed, and adrift in the night amid the monsters of that land. And, in verity, I was set that we go quickly out of that place, ere there came an horrid destruction upon us, and, surely, there should scarce be any human, beside, in all that land, for there must have come death upon the chief of those that did make escape. And after we had eat and drunk, I did count the packs of the tablets, and was thankful in all my being that I had been careful and denied my belly, for I did perceive that there were left enough for our needs, if that we made a good speed, and did not fear to be empty. And of the water powder, as it might be named, there were left 2 full flasks, and somewhat of that one that I had drunk from all my journeying. And by this thing you shall perceive that we did not belike to die for the need of such matters. And here, as it doth occur unto me, I do ponder how it did be that we had no thought to slay any small creature for our food, but, mayhap, we had no knowledge this way, for surely, they did not this thing to my knowing in the mighty pyramid. But yet, as I have said before this, I have not all knowledge of the doings of the peoples. But, in verity, I never saw joint meat in all the time of that far life that I do what of. Yet, had we but slain somewhat for our hunger in that great wandering, we had been less empty in the belly. Now, before that we should do aught beside, we must contrive that Nani have some gear for her feet, and to this intent, I did make a search into the pouch, and surely I found that there did be a change pair of inner shoes, that were made to go within mine own shoes of the grey metal. And at this I was wondrous glad, and did make the maid to sit upon a little rock, while that I made a fitting of the shoes. And, surely, they did be utter big and clumsy upon her little feet, so that I was in surprise to know how great is a man, beside a maid. But in the end I had a cunning thought, for I cut off all the side of a strap, threw out the length of the strap, very thin and careful, and so had a lace to tie the boots around the tops, which were soft and easy for such a purpose. And after that, I stood away to look at the maid, and neither she nor I were truly pleased, for, indeed, she was too pretty to be so hid and muffled. Yet were we glad otherwise, for now she might go without hurt to her feet. And afterward, we packed our gear, and she did make a bundle of her torn garments, for, truly, they might be proper somewise to our need. And so we to begin the way out of that desolate land. And we went forward together across the land, and the journey was no more a weariness, but of a close and sweet joy, yet did I have a new anxiousness, as you do perceive, lest that any monster come to harm mine own. And we went 12 great hours in the bed of the olden sea, and did eat twice in that time. And surely the maid did grow utter weak and weary, for she was not come proper unto her strength, yet did she make no odd saying to tell me of this thing. But indeed, I did know, and I stopped in the 13th hour, and took her into mine arms, even as I should carry a babe, and I went forward with her, and did hush her protesting with a kiss, and afterward she did but nestle unto me and shelter against my breast. And I bade the maid to sleep, but, indeed, she had no power to this end, for her body did ache very sore, but yet did she strive to give me an obedience in this thing. And in the 18th hour, when that I stopped to have food and drink, surely she did be awake, yet had she been utter silent, and I made to scold her, but she gat from mine arms, and did go upward upon her toes, and put her finger against my lips very naughtily. And afterward she did be impudent unto me, and did deny me to kiss her. But she went unto my back, and did open the scrip, and gat me to my food, even as a quiet and proper wife should go. As she did be so sedate that I knew she had mischief her heart of harmless kind. But afterward this did pass sudden into weeping, for she had a quick and sore memory of her father and of the destruction, and I took the maid into mine arms, and did let her be there very gentle, and made not to kiss or to comfort her, but yet to give comfort. And presently she ceased from weeping, and did slip her hand into mine, and I to keep it within, very soft and quiet, and afterward, she began to eat her tablets, yet always she did be very hushed, so that I did be quiet also, and feel as that my love did be round her as a shield. And I knew that she had knowledge of this thing in her heart. And oft I harked into the night of the land, but there was nowhere any sound, or disturbing of the ether, to trouble me. And the maid in mine arms did know when that I harked, for in verity, she had the night hearing and the understanding spirit that doth be needful to such. And odd whiles did I look down to her through the gloom that did be about us, and presently I did perceive that she looked up to me, out of mine arms. And I kissed her. Now, in all that day, we had come nowhere upon any firehole in the bed of the olden sea, and truly I did ache to be nigh unto the warmth of such, for I did feel the cold of the land, because that I was weary, and because that I had not the thickness of the armor suit below mine armor to warm me. And the cloak did be about the maid, for I had feared that she should grow cold as I carried her. Yet, now she did know subtly that I was come to feel the utter chill of the land, and she gat from mine arms, and put the cloak about me, and afterward came again into mine arms. And I let the cloak bide there, and drew it forward to be around her, also. Yet, truly, I was joyful that I did be cold, as you shall perceive. For it was sweet to the heart to bear somewhat of that dread chill for mine own, and she half troubled and likewise with understanding of my heart, because that I was less clothed than I had been. Now, in a little while, the maid did pack the scrip, and so we did make ready again to go forward, for I was grown anxious, as you may suppose, that we should come to some firehole, that we have a place for sleep that had warmth and light, for, truly, the cold of the land did be drear and horrid. And I stooped to take the maid into mine arms, that I should carry her, but she did say nay, that she did be well rested. And I not to gainsay her, for she did mean the thing, as I perceived, and I had no desire to force my way upon her, save when I saw truly that she did seem to go unwisely. And, indeed, when such did be the case I did strive with her, only with a nice reasonableness, as you shall know. And the maid walked by my side, and wondrous silent, but yet very nigh to me, so that I knew she did be very full of love to me, and of that quaint and sweet humbleness that love doth breed odd wiles in a woman when she doth be with her man, if but that man be also her master. And presently, I perceived that the cloak did be over mine own shoulders, and I took it and would have put it about the maid, but truly she did not allow this, and when I did be stern with her, that she obey me in this matter, she did stand upon her toes, that she might kiss me, and pulled my head down, and surely she kissed me and coaxed me that I wear the cloak, else should I give pain to her, in that I did surely be cold because she did wear the armor suit. Yet, I would not hark to this thing, so that the maid did be truly in trouble. And first she made a threatening that she wear but her olden garments that did be only rags, if that I did persist. But this I saw to be foolishness and scarce meant, and did as much need to smile at her as that I did think to scold her, but I did be firm that she wear the cloak. And lo! She went sudden into crying, and this had been beyond my thoughts. And truly, it set me all adrift, for I perceived that she did be greatly distressed concerning this matter, when I had conceived that she did but mean this thing for tenderness' sake. But mine heart helped me to understand, and I saw how she did be truly shamed, in her sweet womanhood, if that I helped her not in this matter, for she did feel that she was made to do hurt unto that one that was her love. And this thing I do pray you to think upon, that you understand, for, indeed, until that I was made to think, I had not seen it this wise, for her. And in the end, I came to agreement with the maid, that we wear the garment hour by hour, in turn, and she to wear it the first hour and I to wear it the second hour, and so to go forward. And truly, this did be in happy arranging, but yet she stamped her foot a little, as I put the cloak about her. And thrice in the hour did she ask me concerning the time that was gone, and surely, when the hour was but up, she had the cloak off in a moment, and went to my back and cast it upon my shoulders, and after to my front, and made it fast upon my breast, and so eager and naughty was she to this, that I took her by the shoulders, and shook her, somewhat, even as she had made to stamp at me, yet mayhaps with more of laughter. And she to take no heed at all, but to button the cloak and be very sedate. Yet, in verity, I caught her up into mine arms, and kissed her, for a sweet and naughty maid, and she very willing, now that she had gotten something of her way. But yet in an hour, I did have the cloak about her, again, and so did straighten matters, as you shall conceive. Now, when we had gone forward, through 5 great hours, I perceived that the maid did be utter worn, but yet did make presence that she was unwearied. And because I saw how she did be, I did heed and be anxious only that we come to some rock, to be for our safe refuge, and mayhap there to find an hole or cave, that should be somewhat to keep our heat about us, for there was nowhere any fire hole and I in all those hours.